Here are 20 controversial things that turn boys into men in a society where masculinity is under attack and boys are constantly feminized. These are things that our fathers should have taught us, and these are things that you can obviously teach to your future son. All right, let's get straight to it. Pain and trauma, that's mandatory. It is impossible to transition from a boy into a man without going through significant pain and significant trauma. I know that's controversial. I know a lot of people are going to bash at this, but guys, if you study the rites of passages in every civilization, every culture that has ever existed, it always involves some kind of pain, some kind of trauma, because the ancients knew that in order to make a boy into a man, which means to give him a lot of mental toughness, to help him develop fearlessness, confidence, stoicism, he had to undergo a period of pain, a period of humiliation, a period of trauma. Now, obviously, you don't want to be too extreme. I know some people are going to try to take this out of context and strawman me, but guys, don't shoot the messenger. It is so important for boys to experience some kind of positive trauma, not negative trauma. I'm not saying go out there and abuse kids and all that shit, of course not, but some kind of hardship. Every masculine man I've ever met, with zero exception, has gone through incredible pain and incredible trauma early on in their life. Zero exception. And that's because it is nearly impossible to develop mental toughness without going through and overcoming some kind of hardship. Now, as a father, once again, I'm not telling you guys to go out there and traumatize your kids. That's not what I'm saying. Make them go through some form of positive hardship, right? As a father, you're in control of that, right? You want to make sure that it's not something that's going to destroy your boy, but at the same time, you want to make sure that it's hard enough to make him level up. I don't care if it's joining a team. I don't care if it's overcoming a fear that he has. I don't care if that's exposing him to rejection. I don't care what it is. You're going to have to be the judge of that as a father, but you have to expose boys to pain and some form of what I call positive trauma to make them transform into men. The reason why society is so soft today is because we've removed that from the process of turning boys into men. So now we have 20, 25, 30-year-old boys walking around acting like entitled little. Next, having a very comfortable childhood. That's a maker. That's not going to turn your boy into a man. That's going to turn him into a. Almost every pathetic, soft, easy, quick to give up, spineless guy I've ever met, and guys, I've been doing this for over 2 decades, had a very comfortable childhood. Are we surprised? If you shield the boy from hardships, from challenges, he's gonna grow up to be a. That's not controversial, guys. That's just common sense. Look at the greatest armies that have ever walked the face of the earth. From the Romans, the Spartans, the Vikings, the Zulus, the Caliphates, the Mongols. They all had one thing in common. The boys had a very, very rough childhood. Again, obviously some of them took it way too far, right? But the point I'm trying to make is having a comfortable childhood will never turn a boy into a man. Because remember, guys, masculinity comes down to 3 things: your ability to protect, your ability to provide, and your ability to parent. And in order to do those 3 things effectively, you need mental strength, physical strength, intellectual strength, spiritual strength, and financial strength. That's not going to happen if you grow up without hardships. Next, having a masculine father or a masculine role model. That is mandatory. For those of us that grew up without our fathers in the home, we had to find that masculine role model in myths, in legends, in books, in historical figures. I personally had to look towards the great men of old for guidance when I was a boy. But you could pick anyone in your community. Again, if you don't have a masculine father in the home with you, you could pick any male in your community that is worth learning from. But it is very important that you have a masculine role model or a masculine presence either in your home or in books or media, TV. I don't care what it is. Have someone that you aspire to be like, to emulate, or to surpass. That is very important. In fact, that is mandatory for the transition of a boy into a man. And make sure you pick the right role models. Don't pick those scammers that are out there today. Don't pick those masculinity frauds. I always say this: the greatest masculine figures of all time are dead. They're all dead. They're found in history books and they're found in myths and legends. Look to those guys for guidance. Don't look to those clowns today that walk around masquerading as men when really all they want to do is scam you out of your money. Next, a overprotective mother. That is a maker. And it's not even close. Once again, every soft, coward, spineless guy that I've ever met grew up with an overprotective mother who shielded him from hardships, who shielded him from too much pain, who did not let him fly his own wings. There's a reason why in every rite of passage across the world, one of the first things they do is they take the boy away from his mother's hut. A loving mother is good, but an overprotective mother will destroy a boy. Next, having bullies, rivals, adversaries, enemies, that is extremely important. Guys, men evolved to fight. The reason why we are bigger, faster, stronger, taller than women on average is because of natural selection and sexual selection. We evolved to fight. We evolved to hunt, be constantly involved in combat and the pursuit of hard goals. Having a rival, having an enemy, or even a bully, I know it sounds crazy, is one of the things that's going to speed up your development and your transition from boy to manhood. Why? Because they put that pressure on you. See, without hardships, without a rival, without an enemy, without a bully growing up, you're going to take your time, right? There's nothing to force you to level up, right? Just like without predators, animals don't really evolve fast enough, right? There's no pressure, right? You need someone that's constantly stimulating your amygdala, constantly putting that fear of weakness in you. Guys, my bullies growing up, because I was bullied like crazy, sped up my maturity like crazy. Why? Because I had no choice. If I wanted to go out and play basketball into the yard surrounded by all these ghetto ass niggas out there, I had to level up because there was bullies on every corner, and I was bullied mercilessly. When I was trying to learn English, I was bullied. When I was trying to learn how to play basketball, I was bullied. Coming from Africa, I was bullied. And because of that, at 14, 13 years old, I had the mentality of a freaking 20-year-old. It made me stronger, it made me faster, made me more fearless. And if you go back in my life and you remove those bullies, I would not be where I am today. In fact, I will never forget at 15 years old, that's the first time I stood up to somebody who's been bullying me ever since I was like 12. And when I finally confronted him while everybody else around me were a bunch of cowards, my life changed forever. For one, he never f***ed with me ever again. Two, it filled me with incredible confidence, which gave me momentum that I carried over into other things in life. It also taught me that nobody's out there to save you. Nobody will save you but yourself, right? Because all of these years, no one was helping me each time this guy would bully me until I decided to stand up for myself. And that's when I learned this valuable lesson that you are your only fucking savior. I repeat, you are your only savior. Nobody else is going to save you but yourself. So for the young guys out there, have an enemy. If you don't have one, create one. Don't go out there and do dumb shit though, right? Don't go out there and get stabbed or killed, but you get the point. Next, externalizing failure. I mean, blaming others, deflecting, never taking accountability for your own mistakes and failures and shortcomings. That is, you guessed it, a bitch maker. You want to turn a boy into a man, you have to teach him early that his life is in his own hands. It is up to us to play with the hands we were dealt. At a young age, I learned that no matter what happens to me, it is my fault. I don't care if it's an external circumstance. I always find a way to point the finger back at myself. It is always my fault. If somebody cuts my arm off today, it is my fault. If somebody breaks into my house and beats the shit out of me and robs me, it's my fault. If I get a job and they fire me, it is my fault. I don't care if, guys, even if it's not your fault, find a way to make it your fault. Why? Because that's going to teach you to look for solutions as opposed to blaming others and waiting for a fucking angel to save you. And like I always say, no one is going to save you but yourself. So you want to turn a boy into a man? Tell him that it is always his fault. I know that's the opposite of what everybody tells you. Oh, no, that's going to make him feel guilty. I don't give a I'd rather have a guy who constantly blames himself and therefore looks for ways to improve than a guy who's constantly deflecting and blaming others. And unfortunately, that's the society we live in. Why do you guys think that even as a black guy, I do not support Black Lives Matter? I cannot stand that organization. All they do is and moan and whine and blame everybody else for problems that we are responsible for. But don't even get me started. When slavery happened to my people, I'm not thinking, oh, it's the white man's fault. It's the Europeans' fault. No, it is our fault. It is our fault. My ancestors were too weak. We got our cheeks clapped. We got our asses conquered. We played a game of power and we lost. Period. Case closed. That's the way I see life. Right? I don't go out there and say, oh, it's because look what the Europeans did to Africa. Look what the white man did. No, it is always your fault. I always say this, never blame your enemy for what you gave him the power to do. I repeat, never blame your enemy for what you gave him the power to do. No one will with you if you had your shit together. But anyway, that brings us to the next one, which is self-accountability. I'm not going to repeat it because it's pretty much the opposite of deflecting and blaming others. So I'm going to put that at mandatory. You want to turn the boy into a man, he has to develop a sense of self-accountability, responsibility for his own actions and for everything that happens to him, even if he had no control over it. Next, failure, defeat, humiliation, rejection, loneliness, you name it, that is mandatory. Once again, just like I mentioned earlier in the video, it is paramount that a boy experiences failure, rejection, pain, humiliation for him to become a man. Why? Because one, that's gonna humble him, right? There's too many arrogant boys out there. One of the hallmarks of a masculine man is that he is humble even though he is powerful. He is humble even though he is competent. He is humble even though he could you up in an instant, right? And in order to learn humility, he has to fail at one point in his life. It is very hard to kill your ego and become a humble, empathetic male if you have never experienced rejection, failure, and humiliation. Pride comes before the fall. And sure enough, in almost every rite of passage, there evolves some kind of humiliation. You need to be humble. Always have a mindset of how can I improve? How can I do better? How can I learn more? How can I help more? Etc., etc. Next, entitlement. Thinking the world owes you shit, thinking society owes you shit, thinking the government owes you shit. That's a bitch maker, right? Nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you minimum wage. Nobody owes you student loan relief. I mean, I could go on and on. The world doesn't owe you anything, guys. Even justice, even something as simple as justice. This is something that we have the privilege to live in an era, in a country, in a society where it is given to us. But nobody owes you shit, right? The world belongs to the strong. It sounds vicious. It sounds savage. But if you study history, you know that that is pure facts. The world belongs to the strong, and they do with it what they will. So if you are weak, either become strong or shut the up. I love what the ancient Greeks said, which is the strong do what they want and the weak suffer what they must. It sounds brutal, it sounds evil, but boy, when I tell you, no truer facts have ever been spoken. That's how the word works. You don't have to accept it, but there's nothing you could do about it. The strong do what they want and the weak suffer what they must. So your job, once again, is to level up in life to become strong or to suffer what eventually will come to you. Nobody owes you anything. Next, learning how to fight. That is obviously mandatory. Once again, men evolve for combat, men evolve to fight. And as I always say, the three main functions of a man is to protect, provide, and parent. And you cannot do the first one or even the second one unless you know how to defend yourself. Learn to fight. You don't have to be an MMA fighter. You don't have to be a boxer. You don't have to be a world level Olympic wrestler, but learn basic self-defense. It's not every day that you're going to have to use it, but the one time that you have to use it and you're unable to will change your life forever, obviously negatively. You could be out in the street, you could be in a train, you could be in a plane, you could be just walking to the grocery store. One day, some homeless guy, some crazy guy, or a bully will come up to you, challenge you or your family, and if you cannot defend yourself, that will be the biggest failure, if not one of the biggest failures of your life. There's nothing worse than being with your family, being with your child, being with your partner, and not being able to protect them from some crazy person. Learn self-defense, or if it's legal in your country, have a weapon on you so that you can de-escalate the situation, subdue the enemy, and obviously move your family away into safety. You are not a man if you cannot protect yourself and your loved ones. Learning how to fight would also give you crazy confidence, knowing that you could walk into any scenario and won't have to worry about a person pulling your man card. Unless you wanted to John Jones, of course. Next, NoFap and semen retention. Cool story, bro. Nobody cares. If you watch my videos, you know how many times I debunk this stupid ass tradition, this stupid ass cult. Science has debunked it. Personal experience has debunked it, empirical evidence has debunked it, and it's still being spread around like crazy. I'm on day 833 of NoFap. Nobody gives a shit. Can you protect? Can you provide? Can you parent? That's all that matters. If your triple S score is trash, meaning your ability to provide security, status, and sexiness, nobody fucking cares about how long your NoFap streak is. Now, if you want to do it for self-discipline or whatever, great, right? But nobody cares. Guys, Pareto principle. Focus on the 20% that gives you 80% of your results. I repeat, focus on the 20% inputs that give you 80% of the output, right? I'd rather have you brag to me about how many books you read, how strong you got in the gym, how much money you making, how many skills you learn, how many people you helping, how much value you give it into the world, than your longest NoFap streak, right? Nobody cares. Go into the real world. Nobody fucking cares. I mean, this cult has created their own value system because they fell at everything else, so they created their own value system to give themselves some kind of status. Oh, look, I'm on day 400. Cool story, bro. My longest streak was 6 months. I made many videos about that. At the end of those 6 months, I was still broke. I was still ignorant. I still had no ability to provide security, status, and sexiness, right? My life only changed when I started focusing on the things that actually matter. Learning new skills, leveling up, training, reading every day. That's when my life changed. And during that time, guess what? I was fapping as much as I fucking wanted to. So like I always say, if you have a girl, clap her cheeks. If not, guys, fap if you have to. Watch my video on porn addiction and all that stuff where I literally debunk all the myths and go through all the science and expose all the BS. All right, next. Competence and mastery at one. I repeat, one crucial skill. That is mandatory. Nothing, I repeat, nothing will give you more value and will do more for your life and for your transition into manhood than mastering one useful skill. And I put Bruce Lee there because when I was a kid, his famous quote changed my life, which is when he said, "I do not fear the man who knows 10,000 different kicks, but I fear the man who practiced one kick 10,000 times." That quote changed my goddamn life because it is so true. Nobody remembers you for the many things you're good at. They will remember you for the one thing you are great at. When I say Michael Jordan, what do you think about? Basketball. When I say Tom Brady, what do you think about? Football. When I say Cristiano Ronaldo, what do you think about? Soccer. When I say Mike Tyson, what do you think about? When I say Albert Einstein, Abraham Lincoln, Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, Khalid ibn al-Walid. When I say John Jones, what comes to your mind? When I say Khabib, what comes to your mind? When I say Tiger Woods, what comes to your mind? When I say Ronnie Coleman, what comes to your mind? See, when I mention all of those people, what do you think about? One thing. Even though they were good at many things. They were good at many fucking things, but they were exceptional and great at one thing. See where this is going? Every person has accomplished something great in life. Although they were good at some things, we only remember them for one thing. And the mistake a lot of boys make is they try to be jack of all trades and master of none. They try to be good at way too many things, right? Master one thing first, then diversify. I always say specialize first, diversify later. Trust me, it's important to have a toolbox of skills. It's important to know many different things. I've studied so many things. There's so many sciences in my lifetime, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to maximize your competence, your triple S score, guys, you have to specialize at one crucial skill, and that's going to increase your ability to provide security status, right? So the first two letters of the triple S score, and it's also going to increase all 5 aspects of the 5 masculine strengths, which is again physical strength, intellectual strength, mental strength, financial strength, and spiritual strength. And when I say spiritual, I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about spirituality. 2 completely different things. Next, all right, I'm going to go really fast now because this video is way too long. Physical strength, obviously that's extremely important, and there's no reason for me to explain why, right? You want to be able to protect and provide, you got to have at least above average baseline physical strength. No need to be a strongman competitor, no need to be a power lifter, but you got to have above average baseline strength. Next, having a loving mother growing up. I'm going to put that useful, right? Because that's not going to do much to transition you from a boy into a man. In fact, it might actually be counterproductive if you go back to the part that I made about having an overprotective mother. So you want to have a loving mother growing up. That's very useful, especially to make sure that you don't grow up too fucked up in the head like I am. But I've met many masculine men who didn't grow up with a loving mother, right? So I'm going to put that at useful. And obviously you guys know my story. I grew up with one of the worst mothers you could think about. Guys, I wouldn't even wish my mother on my worst enemy. Right? If somebody put a gun to my head and said, "Jonathan, you have 2 options. One is to relive your childhood with your mother again or die," I would say, please shoot me now. And I'm not kidding. I would much rather die right now than relive my childhood. That's how horrible my mother was to me. And I did everything you could think about to make that woman happy. I had straight A's in school. I was obedient. I did everything you could think about. Nothing works. But hey, like I say, some of us just got dealt a shitty hand at birth. But the best we could do is internalize it, turn it as fuel, and use it to level up in life. Next, sexual experience. I'm actually going to put that at extremely important, right? It is very important that you get some form of sexual experience early. When I say early, I'm not talking about too young, like fucking early teens, no, but early enough, right? Definitely before your 20s, right? Because one, that's going to give you a lot of confidence heading through life. Trust me, I've counseled so many men who are virgins into their 20s, and it is horrible. They have no confidence. They're scared to approach women. They're scared to approach men because deep down inside, they're like, "Oh my God, I'm a 25-year-old virgin," right? So I'm just going to go against your religious advice. I know that's going to go against all the bullshit you heard. "Oh, wait until marriage." Bullshit. You should go into marriage if you believe in marriage, which obviously I don't, but you should go into marriage with some form of sexual experience, right? Stop subscribing to these bullshit rules and traditions that a bunch of old political figures created years ago and put into a book and called it religion so they could hog all the women to themselves. Get sexual experience early, preferably before you turn 25. It will do wonders for your confidence and your self-esteem. The reason why a lot of you guys are terrified of women is because you have no sexual experience. Guys, once you clap your first cheeks, you realize that women are just creatures. They're just like us, bro. When I see a woman, I think just that. Oh, look, a woman. Because I accumulated so much sexual experience in my life that I see them for what they are. You guys put them on a fucking pedestal because you have no experience with them. They are just as anxious as you, if not more. They are just as fearful as you. Even the most beautiful girl on the planet has more self-esteem issues than you could think about. Trust me, right? And these are things you learn as you accumulate sexual experience. So accumulate sexual experience early in life. Next, having spiritual strength. What do I mean by that? I mean a sense of purpose, a sense of selflessness, knowing that there are things out there greater and bigger than you. I'm not talking about religion once again, because you guys know I despise religion like the fucking plague. Religion is a cancer, right? So don't even get me started on it. I'm talking about spirituality, believing in a higher power, believing in a higher force, believing that there are things out there greater than you, right? And that you should be a servant for good, and that you should strive to help others, love others, having empathy, a sense of purpose, a sense of mission, right? A desire to make the world better. That's what I mean by spiritual strength. I'm going to put that at mandatory. Sadly, we have combined and confused spirituality with religiosity, and they are not the same. So guys, strive to develop a purpose, a sense of identity, a sense of unity, a sense of greater love. Try to develop that early in life. When I wake up every day, I don't think, how do I make my life better? No, I think, how can I make the life of others better? And in doing so, my life automatically becomes better. That's the secret, right? I love a lot of you motherfuckers, even though you don't deserve it. All right, next, religion. I'm going to put that at useful. And that's mainly because there were a lot of masculine agnostics and atheists. And there was also a lot of masculine religious men. So as much as I shit on religion and I can't freaking stand it, I got to give it its due, right? I mean, religion can be extremely important for transitioning a boy into masculinity as long as it instills the right values. The reverse is also true. Religion can be a bitch maker if it instills the wrong value. So, I'm going to put that in the middle. But you guys already know my stance on religion. Just like all things, it has some good and it has some bad. Next, a rebellious spirit and a curious mind. I'm going to put that as extremely important. If you want to become an independent, self-sufficient, and reliable male, you got to have a rebellious mindset, right? Because if you don't, then number one, you're going to be susceptible to brainwashing. You're going to blindly follow authority. You're going to blindly follow tradition, even if it stirs you into the wrong path. So you got to have a curious mind, a scientific mind, a critical mind. I always tell you guys, don't trust nobody. Don't trust me. Don't trust politicians. Don't trust religious figures. Don't trust scientists. Trust no one. Well, Megan, who should we trust in? Trust what works. Trust evidence, trust power, trust whatever gets you from point A to point B. That is my belief system, right? I don't believe in anything that cannot give me or yield immediate result. If somebody tells you that clapping their hands 3 times is going to make rain fall, you know what I do? I'm not going to say, oh, I believe it. Oh, yeah, because it's written in a book somewhere. Or because God said so, or a prophet said so. That. I'm going to say, show me, right? What is your religion, Megan? Show me. That's what my religion is. It's called does it workism. The only thing I believe in is evidence, power, results, right? Because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that fucking matters. People could sit there and debate religion all day, debate belief systems all day. Good for you. The only thing that matters is results. What works, right? When I'm hungry, I want food. When I'm thirsty, I want water. When I'm in pain, I want to feel better. When I'm sick, I want to be healed. That's the only thing I care about. Everything else is for the fucking birds. So whatever gets me from point A to point B, that's what I follow. And if it fails me, then I move on to the next. Right? That's the mindset I want you guys to adopt. Only believe in what works. Criticize everything else. Even if I tell you something and it doesn't work, I want you guys to say, F you, Megan, this doesn't work. On to the next piece of advice. I don't want you guys to be dogmatic. I don't want you to blindly follow or trust anyone, including my goddamn self. And unfortunately today, there's a scarcity of men precisely because we have lost the art of critical thinking. We blindly follow politicians. We blindly follow religious figures and religious books. We blindly follow tradition like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off. I can't stand it. As a man, I want you to criticize and question everything. Teach that to your son early on. I even tell my own daughter to question me. If I tell her to do something and I tell her, oh, this is good for you, I give her the permission to ask me, Daddy, I'm going to do it, but why? Why? I have to explain to her why it is good for her. That puts me in check. That teaches her to be critical, and that also teaches me to not abuse my power. Because too many parents out there just abuse their power and abuse their authority over their kids and make them do a bunch of silly shit just because you had a bad day at work. Fuck that. So this is a system that I have to check me, but also to teach my daughter to not blindly follow anyone unless she knows exactly what's in it for her. Next, knowledge and education. I'm going to put that at mandatory. It is very important that you develop intellectual strength. Read, read, read. I've been saying this for the last 10 plus years, guys. Your daily routine should consist of reading, audiobooks, documentaries, TED Talks. If you can't read, then use audio and visual formats. I don't care what you do, but you need to absorb information every day of your life. I cannot stress this enough. There are two ways to gain the experience of 60 years. One, you could live to 60, or two, you could read a book that a 60-year-old man wrote. And this applies to everything in life, right? It is always more efficient to learn from those who came before you. I love what Isaac Newton said. He said, the reason why I see further than most is because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. When I was young, this is a quote that took me so many places. Read, 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 read everything. Take the good, discard the bad, but you have to increase your intellectual prowess. Teach that to your son early on. Next, knowledge of your history, knowledge of your ancestors, your paternal and maternal line. I'm going to put that at extremely important. Guys, it is not fair that I know the history of most of you guys' ancestors more than you do. Study your ancestors, study your history. I don't care what tribe you're from, what race, ethnic group you are. Learn the history of your ancestors. It's going to give you a sense of identity, a sense of purpose. It's also going to give you some confidence when you see the badass things that a lot of you guys' ancestors accomplished. A lot of the odds they overcame, a lot of the genocides that survived, a lot of the inventions they came up with. Know the history of your ancestors. It's going to give the boy a sense of identity, a sense of purpose, a sense of unity, and it's also going to help with a spiritual strength, right? That's another reason why I don't fall for all the religious lies, because I've studied the history and the religion of almost every culture you could think about. That's how I know it's so BS, because you don't know what you don't know. It's not until you really study the history of world religions that you realize how much we've been lied to about all of the world's major religions. I always say this: you're not religious, you're just ignorant of science, politics, and history. It is impossible to study those three things with an open mind and still be religious. But I digress. Next, ambition. You gotta have ambition, guys. You gotta have a goal that is bigger than you, a goal that frightens you as much as it motivates you. The funny thing is, most great people that ever lived, they only accomplished a small percentage of what they really set out to do. Think about that for a second. We remember them for the great things they accomplished, but really they wanted more. So put that into your head. You're only going to accomplish a small percentage of what you set out to actually do. So you want to set your goals so high, realistically high, that even if you fail to achieve them, you'll still be above everybody else, right? The old saying still stands, right? Shoot for the stars. If you miss, you land above the class. Sounds corny, but it's true. If you try to make 1 million, you'll make probably a few thousand. If you try to make 1 billion, you make a few millions. We remember Napoleon because he conquered France and most of Europe, but you don't know that he really wanted to conquer the world. Same thing with Alexander the Great. Same thing with Michael Jordan. We know, he has 6 rings. He probably wanted 10. Oh, Tom Brady, he has 7. He probably wanted 12, right? Always shoot for more. I have no respect for a man with a pussy ambition. If I ask you, what is your vision? What is your life's mission? And you tell me some bullshit like, oh, I just want to be happy. I just want to have a family and a house. Then I already know you're a disgrace to your ancestors. Next, high testosterone and DHT levels. That goes without saying. You guys know where this is going. Mandatory. Literally, the hormone that turns a boy into a man is testosterone acting through the androgen receptor. There is no masculinity without testosterone. Physical strength, check. Mental strength, check. Intellectual strength, check. Financial and spiritual strength, check. It is the hormone that is responsible for everything that I talked about in this video. It is the hormone of excellence. It is the hormone of conquest. It is the hormone that gives you the will to dominate life. It is no coincidence that society today is trying to lower men's testosterone levels to make them easier to control and dominate. So all of you guys should aim to naturally boost your testosterone levels as high as possible. Guys, think about it. There's a reason why all of these celebrities, all these influencers, 90% of them are on TRT. 90%. All the guys that you guys are looking up to, don't let them fool you. 90+% of them are on TRT for a reason. Now, obviously, they're cowards because they picked the easy way out. Because as you guys know, I think only 3 groups of people should be on TRT, which is military or police, professional athletes, and people who cannot produce testosterone naturally due to disease, genetic disorders, or accidents, whatever. If you're not in those 3 categories, you're a coward. I'm sorry. But anyway, you guys get the point. There's a reason why all of these guys are on TRT is because testosterone is literally the hormone of success. But as for you, do it naturally. Do not rent your masculinity from a goddamn bottle. If testosterone is what makes you a man and you're getting it from an injection, what does that tell you? You are not a man without that fucking bottle. I'd rather die than become dependent on Big Pharma for my masculinity. But that's just me. Next, having someone to provide for, to care for. I'm going to put that at mandatory. You want to turn the boy into a man, nothing will do that faster than giving him a leadership role, giving him a position where he's responsible for somebody else's well-being. That's why a lot of boys quickly become men the moment they have a kid, right? Not all, but most. Having somebody to provide. It doesn't have to be a kid. It could be your child. It could be a cousin. It could be a niece, a nephew, a cousin, a little brother, a place that you work at where you're watching over kids. It doesn't matter. But being responsible for somebody's protection or provision is going to catapult your journey into manhood, because it's going to make you selfless. It's going to make you put others ahead of you. It's going to teach you to be humble. It's going to teach you teamwork. It's going to teach you kindness, empathy. I mean, I could go on and on. You want to turn a boy into a man, make him responsible of someone else. Next, having financial freedom, financial stability. So I'm putting money here, but think about it. Money is just resources. So there's nothing magical about money. It's really the ability to procure resources. I'm going to put that at mandatory. Why? Simple. Once again, the goal of a man is to protect, provide, and parent. None of which you could do if you dead fucking broke. You cannot protect your family if you broke. You cannot provide for your family if you broke. And you cannot effectively parent or lead if you are broke. So don't let nobody tell you to not prioritize the acquisition of money. That's one of the biggest lies that I was told when I was a kid, and it took me years to finally break out of that mindset, and it set me back so much. But again, that's my fault for being a dumbass and listening to idiots who would tell me not to care about money, but yeah, would go work a 40-hour-a-week job that they couldn't fucking stand. For what? For money. Everything you're gonna do to make your family happy or your loved ones happy will require money. The food you buy, the clothes you buy, the house you live in, the car you drive, the internet you have, the phone that you have, the plane tickets you're going to buy to travel the world, everything, the books you're going to read, the gas in your car, everything you're going to use to level up as a man or provide for your loved ones is going to require either your money or the money of somebody else. So make it your goal as a man to be financially independent. Don't let all these broke clowns out there trying to justify their brokenness by telling you, oh, don't worry about money, don't worry about money, as they're working a job they can't fucking stand, or as they're begging for donations. Money, or should I say the ability to procure resources, has always been a hallmark of masculinity. When we were hunter-gatherers, it was the best hunter. When we were farmers and agriculturists, it was the best farmer. If you were in a nomadic or herding society, then it was who had the most goats and cattle and camels or whatever. So it all comes down to the ability to procure resources. It has never changed. Next, having mental strength, having mettle, courage, bravery, fearlessness, discipline, stoicism, you name it. Pretty much mental strength, mental toughness, that is without a doubt mandatory. In fact, the two biggest domains in which men differ from women is in physical strength and mental strength. There's a reason why testosterone increases your confidence, your fearlessness, and lowers your anxiety, because everything you need to do to fulfill your role as a man, right, which is to protect, provide, and parent, is gonna require mental fucking toughness. Gotta be fearless. You gotta be brave. You gotta be disciplined. You gotta learn how to control your emotions. Gotta be stoic. You gotta be somebody that somebody can rely on. Teach that to your son early on. And last but not least, a chip on your shoulder, a spirit of vengeance. I know that's controversial, but that is extremely important. If you study every great man that ever lived, one thing that they had in common was they had a chip on their shoulder. They had something that they wanted to prove, or something that they wanted to conquer, or someone that they wanted to get back at. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds negative, but trust me, don't shoot the messenger. It works. Nothing will motivate you more than vengeance. Nothing will motivate you more than trying to prove somebody wrong who doubted you, who gave up on you, or who thought less of you. Jordan had a chip on his shoulder. Tom Brady had a chip on his shoulder. Alexander the Great had a chip on his shoulder. Mike Tyson had a chip on his shoulder. King David had a chip on his shoulder. Genghis Khan had a chip on his shoulder. Muhammad had a chip on his shoulder. If you study the history of great men, that's one thing that they all had in common, is somebody did them dirty, and they were driven by the desire to either get back or to surpass the expectations that the people who doubted them put on them. But anyway, guys, hope this video helps. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and grab a copy of the ebook on the website if you want to support the channel. I'm out of here.